Okay, so we're going to do things a little bit differently this particular program. It seems like it's been such a long time since I've been here. We do this, what, every 3 months? Oh my gosh, it's just not enough. We need more K.A.S.S.I.E Live. I'm going to need you to write into the producer and into the station and let them know. All right, so I have a guest on the couch with me, and then we have another young lady coming up, but I wanted to kind of start it off kind of artsy-fartsy because you know how much I really adore the thought of healing through the arts, and because I am a performer and an entertainer myself, I use my arts to heal, and I love to have guests on the program who do the same thing. So before we introduce the guest that's on the couch right now, I'd like to bring to the microphone a young woman named Lisa Marie. Hey, oddly enough, both my guests have 2 first names. So I know I'm a little corny, sorry. Had a little too much coffee. But yeah, Lisa Marie is coming to the microphone, and this young lady, she is wow. When we were looking for survivors to participate in Healing Through the Arts in September, our initial launching, which will be an annual event, someone was like, you have to get Lisa Marie, you have to get Lisa Marie. And I didn't know her story or anything like that, but I called her, told her what it was all about, and she was like, yes, I want to do it, I want to do it. She came, she hit the stage. OMG, just wait until you hear her entire story when she shares it on the couch. But right now, I'm going to be quiet. Give me a few minutes. It's been a long time. I'm just trying to catch up. You know, I'm just trying to catch up with you. Okay, so right now, I want to take it over to Lisa Marie, spoken word artist and survivor. Hey, hey.
This piece is called The Gathering, and I wrote it. This piece is called The Gathering, and I wrote it for survivors. Pain gathers itself like pebbles between unworthy shoulder blades to carry the weight of waiting for them to form boulders, and we ferry the hurt like mountains sinking into the swamps, living for the nothing to happen. Our feelings fall like flat rock rippling into the mouths of rivers of those willing to taste the stones. Judgment withheld to help each other scribe the name of our pain, cemented in the abyss, fingered messages vulnerable, a never-ending suffering that children only whisper to the stars. We live to hold human hands, churning mountains in our jaws, scaling the highest peak and releasing the boulders, rolling hillside cheek, and they rest as headstones where we weep the reaper's work, wandering together, holding the universe up, standing shoulder to shoulder, until one complains of the weight of the world on their backs and accuses the others of birth in the boulders. We're a foundation in which the earth has formed, rooted, our mountains carried like a whisper, like a conch shell holds the ocean inside. There is nothing weak to speak of when admiring a growing survivor. They carry the weight of those things we do not speak of. We walk on the corpse of our pain, the white sandy bones like the grit we catch between our teeth, the dust of where we came from. We've paved the streets with it, dipping deep quills into the mud-blooded wells, reaping the reality of lies onto these lined sheets, of men who pretend to reign kingdoms with false diadems, place the guillotine between my teeth, crushing their skulls onto sandy beaches, birthing trees to become books that speak the names of our pain, and we release peace.
Thank you. We deal with a very serious subject, and it is a subject of sexual and domestic abuse survivors. And the conversation about that is not always pretty. So I just wanted to let you know, if you're watching the show, we are going to have adult conversation. It is not, come on, sweetie, it is not our objective to offend anyone. We don't want to offend you. We don't want to disrespect anybody, but we're just keeping it real because real life has happened to survivors. And so we're just going to have a conversation about that. So if you're a little sensitive to that and you don't want the people in the room to hear it, I appreciate it, I respect it, I totally understand, it's totally fine. But just know that we may have some adult conversation here. And you know, I hope you are willing to stick around. So Lisa's here. Are you comfortable? You get comfortable because we're about to have a conversation, sweetheart. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet Lisa Marie. She is a survivor, a sister survivor. She's a spoken word artist. She's a mom, and she is absolutely phenomenal, and she's definitely an overcomer. So welcome to the couch.
Thank you.
You are more than welcome.
Pleasure to be here. You know, it's relieving to have this opportunity, and I thank you really for the K.A.S.S.I.E project and what you do for survivors of abuse.
This guy gave it to me. If it wasn't for my girl Cassandra, then we wouldn't be sitting here on the K.A.S.S.I.E couch. So let's jump right into it because, you know, the show is only an hour long, and I do want you to do another piece before you leave.
Yes.
The piece that she absolutely wowed everybody with at the at Healing Through the Arts. I mean, I had NKU, Northern Kentucky University, contact me and say, hey, we really need her number, and some people who really wanted to get her on their stage. So needless to say, you are the bomb.
Thank you. That was the first time I had ever shared that piece publicly. You know, of course, with my husband, but yeah, never had read it to anyone or anything like that. So it was relieving for me. It was more like I told the notebook, okay, now what? What can I do with it now? So it was.
So
great.
how long have you been using your art to heal?
Well, you know, as a survivor, and I was a victim as a child of sexual abuse, and I was hushed. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yes, we were.
And people think sometimes that holding stuff in, you know, like don't just make it go away. But what people don't realize is it's an everyday struggle for people. So the first outlet I used was art. You know, I draw pretty little butterflies and then, you know, like storms in the background, you know, just to get out there, like someone hear me. And then eventually the butterflies turned into words.
Awesome.
And in notebooks. I was like, okay, I've got it down and I know what I can say. And then as a teenager, I finally started saying, you're not going to keep me quiet. This is what happened to me and it's going to stop so it doesn't happen to anybody else.
So how old were you when your abuse started?
Probably about 3. From the time I was 3 till I was 6.
3 to 6?
Yeah.
And I'm taking it you remember everything vividly?
I do. Unfortunately, that's the part of the silence that's so hard for survivors is that we remember everything, and people would be surprised. The color of a shirt, a smell, the way something brushes against your arm every single day. There is a reminder of that. So if you're not doing something expressive, then it's just going to just bury you. So that's why you just say no to silence. You speak.
So when you were growing up, okay, so you said from 3 to 6. After that, how did you, I guess you could say, process? How did you process it? I mean, you were young. Did you know that something wrong had happened? Did you try to tell somebody?
I did try to tell. I told an aunt, and she didn't believe me. She thought that my mother had sort of like brainwashed me into believing it. So I kind of just kept it in and pretended it didn't happen. But as an older child, when I got more like 8, 9, and I started to understand how things worked, I was like, this is wrong. That was wrong, you know. And that's when it started causing, you know, things like self-shame, embarrassment, low self-esteem, no confidence. That's when expression started to really be key for me.
So you would agree, and a lot of times when you're talking to people about having been a victim, where you are now a survivor, people say, well, you know, why haven't you gotten over it by now? Yes. Or, you know, you're probably exaggerating.
Yes.
My whole thing was it was probably your fault. You know, you put yourself in that situation because mine wasn't just limited to things that happened in the home. As I got older, I don't know how, I found myself in a situation where I was being violated.
Yeah,
Yes,
and most women do. And our culture has created such a rape culture, of victim shaming, of trying to find ways that we can change ourselves being raped. But it's not us. There's nothing we can do. What we can do is help each other and help young girls and young boys find a voice, an outlet. Don't make them scared to speak out. And you know it'll really drop that. 1 in 4 is unacceptable.
Yes, it is.
Unacceptable.
Those are the statistics of how many, and can I just say women are just people in general because men are also survivors.
Yes.
And I think the statistics is 1 in 3 and then 4.
I think it's 1 in 4 for women, and those are reported cases, and 1 in 5 for men.
1 in 5.
And again, those are reported cases.
And of course, we know men, when it involves a male, it's hardly ever, never reported.
My case isn't reported.
Yeah, well, yeah, mine wasn't either.
Verbally.
Kind of now, this isn't really reporting it, but we're able to talk about it. Your perpetrator, was there only one, or did you have several?
Well, this is the thing with victims, is usually as a child, once you have been a victim, you are way more likely to become a victim again. So I was abused in my home by my grandfather as a small child, and again by my brother's friend when I was probably like 9. But then, as an adult, I was scared. So I wouldn't even put myself in a position where I felt like this could happen to me again. So I would be like, no, I'm not going. I don't want to do that. High school, I didn't go to parties. I didn't do anything because I was like, I don't want to deal with that ever again.
I commend you on that.
But it shouldn't have to be that way.
It shouldn't have to be that way, but as a survivor myself, I know that we all have different outlets.
Yes.
Some survivors of sexual abuse become promiscuous.
Yes.
Looking for love in all the wrong
places.
Yeah.
Yes.
We do that, and sometimes, because we don't know, if someone's been taking that from us for so long.
It's like they spooned a part of you out, and you got to fill it up with something.
But we think that's what we're supposed to be giving away.
Right.
You know, if we give you this, then we'll be happy. We won't be hurt. You won't hurt me. It won't, you know, so there's a lot of things. Now, you are a mom.
Yes.
So you have little girls, well, and little boys.
I do. I have little girls and little boys.
Little girls. So how do you, in your mind, what are you doing? How do you get to a point where you feel like you are doing everything that you can possibly do to keep your babies from experiencing the things that you've experienced?
Well, when I first told, the doctors chalked it up to my grandfather must have accidentally, inappropriately touched me in the bathtub. So my children, who are 4, 3, 1.5, and 7 months. Now, I bathe my 7-month-old, but even my 1.5-year-old daughter, she bathes herself, she cleans herself, and I tell them, this is your space, nobody can touch it, and we practice. Stop doing that. I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to tell my dad. I'm going to tell my mom. I make them say these things to me so that they understand that they have a voice and they can tell me anything and not be scared.
Good for you. Good for you. I wish that more of us had taken that road, but I do know that you said that you started writing earlier, and for some of us, we don't recognize that we can teach others to use their voices because we have been incapable of using our own voice.
Yes.
So it wasn't as easy, as much as I wanted to protect my little girl, and I didn't think so much about my little boys until I got older, but I became a mom I think Courtney was born when I was 20, so I don't know if that calculates as a teen mom or not, but I was young, and I thought that if I, you know, had a baby and got married and everything was going to be perfect.
Right.
But it did not occur to me that the things that happened to me could possibly happen to my little girl, and how do you teach a little girl, for me, I didn't know at the time, how do you teach a little girl to recognize that that's, you know, bad, or this is something that I need to tell my mommy, or something to that effect? And I apologize to all of my children. I have 3 children. I apologize if there was ever a time where mommy didn't protect you. But now that I have recognized my voice and I know that I can say these things to you, and you've attended K.A.S.I.E events with me, so you know what I've been through, and you see some of the signs. I just encourage all parents, you know, moms and dads to, look at that, I made myself cry. Moms and dads to listen to our children, to trust them. We have no reason. I know as a child, I had no reason to fabricate anything that happened to me.
Yeah, no reason.
Anything. So I applaud you for teaching your babies.
Thank you.
You know, and we won't go into like detail about things that happen, but will you come back and do Healing for the Arts this year?
I sure will.
Hey. And you can do the same piece over and over and over again. Because I totally loved it. I totally loved it. And I do want you to do that piece for us before you leave. So where are you now? You are writing about it. You are you speaking out in groups of people, or was it just Healing Through the Arts, or how often do you speak on your past?
I've never officially spoken about it in a public setting. The first time Healing Through the Arts, that was my setting. I've encouraged always Facebook, social media, say no to, you know, silence. Make sure you're expressing yourself. I've taught writing workshops for children who were physically abused. I've done things like that, but as far as the sexual abuse, this is the beginning of me trying to share that. Now, I will be at NKU at Take Back the Night.
April, yes,
in
April
11th.
11th.
Yeah,
Okay,
April 11th.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about that because it's a bigger group of college kids, you know,
Yes.
who need to understand that speaking out is important.
Oh
The
my gosh.
silence is what's deadly.
Yes, you'd be surprised that when I first started working with NKU, the statistics, and not the reported statistics, it's just the survivors who came when I had my speak out,
Yeah.
and they shared with me and things that they were writing on the. I'm just like, what? This is going on in college, and I didn't think about it. I don't know why. Sometimes I guess I just seem to, I don't know. Things are just like oblivious. I'm oblivious to some things, but the numbers are.
Staggering.
Yes.
It's scary.
Yes,
Yeah.
very. And I think they will receive you very, very well. Very well. Now, we had a conversation about how our families reacted
Yes.
or are currently reacting to us reaching a point where we have recognized that when we share, we heal and we can live in life after abuse. How has that experience been for you?